call. We're glad you could join us. We know there are lots of questions around legislation that was recently passed, and we hope to answer some of those questions during this call. If you have additional questions, please feel free to ask in the Q&A field or in the chat field, and our staff will do their best to answer them. You can also reach out directly to our state director, Adam Gardner, or your region director, Matt Anderson. Their information is in the chat box, and they will be able to help you as well, especially if they are very specific to your business. Feel free to reach out to them. And with that, I'll hand it to Senator Romney.
Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate you organizing this, and thank you to Silicon Slopes that's actually put this together and is managing our site today. That we're all on this Zoom site. So thanks to the folks at Silicon Slopes. Thanks to all of you for joining. I know this is a challenging time for all of you in business, and I come today to offer some advice, a little information. I realize that there's going to be a lot more specific information that you're going to want. And I would direct you to a couple of places for specific information. First, our website, romney.senate.gov. We keep that up to date. It links to the relevant government sites that give you information about loans, about grants, and so forth. So if you need updated information, just go to romney.senate.gov, and that will direct you on to other areas of interest. Secondly, I want to note that there's also a website for those that are in agriculture. It's called farmers.gov. Farmers.gov has specific information for agriculture-related issues associated with the COVID-19 crisis. And finally, let me note that that Ogden has an emergency loan fund, which it's put together. And so those of you that are in the Ogden area are able to contact the Ogden Business Information Center. The Ogden Business Information Center to see about the availability of a loan from the Ogden Emergency Loan Fund. Let me just turn to some matters that relate to the federal government. The question we receive most often is what's available? What loans are available? And there are two types of funding which are available. The big one, which you've heard about, that got passed by Congress, is something that's known as the Personal Paycheck Program, PPP. The Personal Paycheck Program is a loan which turns into a grant. If the money is used for certain specific purposes designated by the law, then the loan will be forgiven. So to some extent, it's almost free money, but it's designed to encourage employers to keep their employees on the payroll, even if there's no work for them to do. So instead of having people put out into the unemployment system, they keep them on the payroll, and the government will grant you the money that you're having to spend in order to do that. So what are the provisions of this program? First of all, it's only available for businesses with 500 employees and less. But it is available for those small businesses as well as not-for-profit enterprises, as well as people who work in the gig economy, people who are self-employed. Any one of these entities is available or can be take advantage of this program. The amount of this loan, which will be forgiven, is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. It's your average in the past before the COVID-19 crisis hit. And so you calculate what that average monthly payroll was. You use that by looking at your workers' compensation forms in the past. You provide that to the Small Business Administration, and you will be granted 2.5 times the average monthly payroll. In order to have that fund forgiven, or that loan forgiven, the money can be used for only certain things. First, your payroll expenses, as well as rent, interest on your mortgage, lease payments, and utilities. To the extent that the funds are used over the next 8 weeks for those things, the loan will turn into a forgivable grant. It's important, however, that you maintain the current number of employees, or the number of employees you had during your period in the past. And so what happens if you've already let people go or put people on furlough? Well, they're looking for you to actually go back and put them back on payroll. so that your number of full-time equivalent employees remains the same during this period as it was in the past. So kind of a complicated program, but it's money that is going to be granted. And as a result, there ought to be a lot of people that want it. Now, perhaps my most valuable advice is this. There's not going to be enough money for all the people who want it. And therefore, there is a first mover advantage. You're going to want to take advantage of these programs as quickly as you can, apply to be able to obtain these funds as quickly as you can, so that you can be sure that you actually get some of this funding, because it's going to run out. I anticipate that Congress is going to probably build this fund again, but I can't be sure that's going to happen, because Congress getting things done, those two phrases don't always connect terribly well. So move quickly if you can in order to take advantage of this. There's also a program that you're familiar with that's been around a long time, which is a separate program called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Those loans are available up to $2 million. And that's a program that's been around a long time. To qualify for that loan, an area has to be declared a disaster area, and Utah has been declared a disaster area. These funds have to be repaid. So they're very different than the PPP program, which do not have to be repaid. I would note, however, that there's an element of this EIDL loan that does not have to be repaid. And that is, in an emergency setting, you can apply directly to the Small Business Administration and get up to $10,000 for working capital. And that $10,000 amount will be forgiven. And if you ultimately get an EIDL loan, that $10,000 amount will be deducted from it as if it had already been paid off. So EIDL loans are available, as well as the PPP, or the Personal Paycheck Program loan/grant is available. You may wonder where you apply for these things. Well, the EIDL loans, you apply directly to the SBA, and you can go on their website. Again, we've got a link on our website, but you can go to their website and apply for an EIDL loan, look at the specific requirements for that loan, and whether you qualify to be able to obtain it. Let me tell you about the qualifications for the Personal Paycheck Protection program, and that is that again, you have to have less than 500 employees. The enterprise has to show that it has been substantially harmed by the COVID-19 disaster, and demonstrating those things will allow you to qualify for that program. I think I've answered most of the questions, but let me go on to other items that I've received inquiries about, but may not be directly related to the loan and grant program that's available in the government. One is just, what kinds of things I'd be doing in a setting like the one you're in right now, were I in your position. And by the way, once upon a time, I was in your position. I became the head of a company of 1,000 employees that was in distress, and 2 weeks away from bankruptcy. And the question was, okay, how do we survive? And one of the first things we did was to decide who we were going to pay and who we were not going to pay, and who we were going to reduce our payment to. So we tried to analyze who it was we owed money to, and who would be able to forbear a delayed payment, where we had the greatest capacity to basically say to them, hey, we're really sorry, but we can't pay you right now. We'll pay you later, or perhaps not pay you at all. So that requires a little analysis and some thought. The second thing we thought about was who you're going to extend receivables to. Who are you going to give some forbearance to? Because some people owe you some money. And in a circumstance like this, if your conditions are strong enough, you might be able to provide some financing to others. And my experience is they will never forget the suppliers, the retailers and so forth that were good to them at a time of difficulty. I noticed that this is a time to focus your attention to the things that are absolutely essential to your survival and ultimately to your thriving, and then to organize how you respond to the elements that are most important. And when I say organizing that, I mean forming task forces. If you're a pretty large enterprise, if you're very, very small, it's going to be you alone. But if you got 20 or 30 or more people, assigning different people different tasks can be a very helpful way to keep those folks busy and occupied during a pretty quiet time for many of you. But it's also a time for the task to be divided and therefore accomplished. Everybody doing everything at the same time is a sure way to get nothing done. And finally, I just note that in a time like this, you might want to consider the design of your product going forward, because there are going to be a lot of enterprises whose product offering is going to need to change by virtue of the national crisis that we've gone through. And that includes retailers, publishers, advertisers. I mean, the whole host of enterprises are going to change in the things they deliver by virtue of what's happened, because America is going to change and our state's going to change as a result of this experience. I'll also note that I have high hopes that we're able to get through this without having unnecessary deaths, but I'm not sure of that. I sure hope we do. Social distancing is helping, but we can learn a lot, in my opinion, by looking at the experience of countries that have actually tamed this beast. South Korea, Taiwan, China, Germany are all following a very similar playbook, which really has three parts: extensive testing of individuals, and then doing contact screening, contact histories to find out where anybody who's tested positive, who they've interacted with. So very extensive contact work, and then testing all the people that they contacted, and anybody who tests positive to COVID-19, they isolate. They put them outside of their home. They put them in hotels, dormitories. They get them food. They get them medical supplies, but they keep people who are infected away from others. So those are the keys. I hope that we're able to adopt that as a state. Not all states will be able to. It's too far gone, I think, in New York City to be able to do that. But in Utah, we have the prospect, I think, of actually taming this disease. I can tell you that I'm encouraged by what I see across our state. The stories of people helping people are really inspiring. And I know it's a frightful time for a lot of folks, but we've been through difficult times before as a nation and as a state. And I believe that we're coming together in a way that is consistent with our heritage as a great nation, consistent with our heritage as a pioneer people. And I'm hoping we'll all be able to do the same at this stage. And so, Mandy, if you've got any questions for me that I haven't already responded to, or even those that I have, why don't you pass them along?
Yes, we have a couple of other questions. The first one is, will there be phase 4 legislation? Will there be additional packages coming?
I think it's likely that there will be a phase 4. I say that because a couple of things are necessary for that to happen. One is you have to see COVID-19 continue to be a plague on the nation, and I think that's pretty likely. I don't see an indication that we've reached the peak, or that we're going to reach it real soon, or that we are taking the kind of steps necessary to actually tame this beast. And so I think you're going to see it around for a long time. Just flattening the curve is not enough. You actually have to stop new infections, and we haven't begun to figure out how to do that, or we haven't begun to do. We know how to do it. We haven't begun to do what's necessary to actually do that. So I think it's going to be around for a long time. Number two, you have to get Congress to act. That's a bigger imponderable, in my opinion. Congress ought to be able to take this on. But last time around, we had a process that worked pretty well. It was such an emergent situation that Mitch McConnell formed task forces within the Republican caucus of the Senate. 4 groups came together. I was on 2 of those 4 task forces. And one is a member of the Small Business Committee, but another as a special task force on individual support. That's help for families. And so we had a process that worked pretty well, in part because it was done so quickly. And Nancy Pelosi came in at the last moment. She had all sorts of demands, from what I understand, and it got a few of those demands satisfied, and was willing to go along with the program because she knew and the country knew we had to do something quickly. But now there's time, and I'm getting, by the reading I'm doing and contacts I've had with my colleagues, everybody has something they want to do. They have some money for a pet project, and that has the potential to derail things. So I can't tell you how soon or how effective the next tranche will be. I do want to mention something else, though, which I failed to mention in my introductory remarks, And that is as part of our personal relief program, in addition to the $1,200 check that you're familiar with that will go to each adult and $500 for each child. We also substantially increased unemployment insurance. And you know the particulars in that, I believe, but that is for someone who is furloughed or laid off. They will receive not only the normal unemployment amount, which is roughly $350 a week, but they'll receive $600 in addition to that. So $950 a week. And that means that you're going to have a decision to make whether you want to lay people off because they can get these payments over the next 4 months, these elevated payments, or whether instead you want to get one of these personal paycheck program loans that turns into a grant. So some of your employees are going to say, hey, lay me off because $950 a week is more than I'm making now. On the other hand, if you lay them off and your employment numbers are down, you will not be eligible for forgiveness of a loan under the personal paycheck program. So that's a decision you're going to have to make. Mandy?
How does unemployment insurance work for people who are self-employed or are contract workers?
Um, these programs, both the personal paycheck protection program as well as the unemployment program, work for individuals in sole proprietorships, in not-for-profits, in small businesses. They're all these programs. The eligibility has been expanded to be able to cover more of our citizens. So individuals, small businesses, very small businesses will be able to take advantage of these increased amounts that are currently they've currently been appropriated.
Okay, and one last question. Where would they go to apply for these loans?
For the EIDL loan, the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan, they go directly to the Small Business Administration. So you go to their website and you can apply online. For the personal paycheck program, you go to your bank or credit union where you typically do your banking. And if your bank or credit union does not already subscribe to the Small Business Administration program, why find another bank or credit union that does, and they will process the paperwork with you or for you. And by the way, they have far more information that I can provide in a little phone chat like this. And so they'll give you more particulars. And also going on our website, you're going to see more particulars, as well as going to the SBA that we link to from our website. Again, it's romney.senate.gov, and you'll be able to link through and get all the particulars. But again, first mover advantage. Want to see you all move as quickly as you can because I want to make sure that Utah businesses get at least our fair share of the funds that are being appropriated.
Great. Well, thank you, Senator, for joining us. We know that you have to run to another meeting, so feel free to drop off. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm speaking with chambers of commerce across the state today. We've got 5 different calls. Again, thanks to the folks at Silicon Slopes for hosting this, and good luck to all of you. I want to keep your businesses alive and thriving. All the best and stay safe.
Thanks, Senator. One more mention to our chambers and businesses. You can contact our state director, Adam Gardner. His information is listed in the chat box. You can also reach out to our region director, Matt Anderson, and he'll be able to help you as well. We know that there are lots of questions and most of them are very technical. A lot of them are very individual to your situations. And we want to be a resource to you and to help as much as we can. So feel free to reach out. You can also check our website, which is romney.senate.gov/smallbizhelp, BIZ, small biz help. So with that, we thank you for joining us and have a great day.